All right, here we go for TWiP episode 477. Hey, folks, welcome back to another episode of This Week in Photo. I'm your host, Frederick Van Johnson. Joining me to discuss some concerning stories this week, I'm joined by two of my good friends, Miss Sarah Franz from FranzPhotographers.com and Mr. Doug Kay from TWiP's All About the Gear show. Hey, guys, welcome back.
Hello,
Thank
hello.
you.
I'm so excited. I'm so used to hearing Sarah's voice on the podcast when I'm in the car, and now I get to see her. This is a big thrill for me.
I know. Sarah's awesome. She's got that voice. She's got the voice. Well, cool. This is going to be good. So, Sarah, before we dive in, you haven't been on in a while. I'd like to catch up and figure out what part of the world you've been crushing lately. What's been going on with
Yes.
France photographers?
We're heavy in wedding season, so we had a big Indian wedding this last weekend, which was great and incredible. And we had one of the girls that I have done a one-on-one mentorship came out from Alaska to shoot with us, so that
Cool.
was really fun. And we are still building our team in Austin, Texas. So we're located in San Diego, as you know, but we just opened a new location in Austin, and we are actually currently looking for two more photographers in that area too, to kind of fulfill our trifecta of three amazing female photographers. So I'm excited. We've been meeting some really good prospects and a lot of great venues and a lot of great other vendors out there, and it's been so fun to build out another city. I'm like a kid in a candy store every time I go out there.
I love it. I want to get to Austin. I have not. I've heard so many good things about Austin, but I have not had the opportunity to go there. And the Indian weddings, Bruce Clark, who you know, who hosts TWiP weddings and also does show notes for this show, he was telling me that he shoots Indian weddings from time to time. Never been to one, but I hear that they are not like your sort of Christian weddings in terms of duration. Are they? I hear they're really short. Is that true?
No, they're actually really long.
Yeah,
But
I know. I was
yeah,
being facetious.
you were being silly. Yeah.
Yes.
No, they are very long. But this one wasn't really as long. I actually did one that was a mixed culture, and it was 2.5 hours. That was still the longest ceremony I've shot to date, I think. But this one was perfect. It was beautiful, really great ceremony, but definitely they are a little bit on the longer side. They always provide like a lot of water, and people like get up and walk around sometimes during it. It's very like easy flowing, easy going, and there's so many cool things about their culture that I just love. I love Indian weddings. They're
Maybe that's the secret.
Hindu weddings, I should
Maybe
say.
maybe weddings in other cultures marriages would last longer if they had longer weddings. I'm thinking.
Maybe that's what we're missing. If
There's
the
a
length of the
correlation
ceremony
between
determines the length of the marriage.
divorce
But
rate is
I think
2% in that culture versus 50% in California.
yeah, I mean, you are right. I don't think I see divorced families very much when I do those weddings. Not to say it doesn't happen, but it definitely is a thing, is a thing for sure. But they
Yeah.
are just so beautiful and so much fun, and they usually sometimes involve like horses and elephants and just so many cool
Wow.
things. It's
That
amazing.
sounds like
Yeah.
Cirque du Soleil or something going on over
It
there.
is. It's great. I'm still waiting actually for an elephant. That's like I know I've talked about it before. It's like one of my life goals is to shoot a wedding with an elephant. So if you're having an elephant in your wedding, please call me.
Very cool. Or contact her through francephotographers.com.
Yeah, that was like a commercial.
Shameless plug for my good friend Sarah France. My other good friend, Mr. Doug Kay. Doug, you're like a game of Pong bouncing between the United States and Cuba. How did we catch you on a United States kind of bounce?
It's really, you caught me, but you know why? Because it's hot in Cuba right now,
Yeah.
and I'd rather just stay here and have some nice Cuban rum. Thank you very much. But yeah, I've been there twice in the last few months, 6 months, and in fact, I'll make a plug here. I still have a few more slots open for my workshops in Cuba in January and March. So head over to dougk.com if you want to join me in Cuba. But
Nice.
I want to say that, Sarah, I wonder how many times when you've got a prospective client do they ask you, what percentage of your clients end up divorced within a few years?
Maybe it's the photographer.
Oh my goodness. Oh yeah.
That's why
Well,
you should.
actually, I think I have a really great percentage. I think I'm really, really high. Every time I talk to my couples, they're still married, and I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
There'll be like randoms here and there. Maybe it is a secret. You have to have me photograph your wedding in order to stay together.
I think that's it, and I think doing more Indian weddings can only improve your odds.
There you go.
Exactly.
Yeah, France
yeah,
and Indian together. There you go.
So anyway, Cuba. I'm off to Paris next month with our good friend Valerie Jardin. I'm going to be.
And Valerie does a show that I've heard of.
I have too. What is it called?
What's it called? Oh, Street Focus.
Ah,
Yes.
that's it.
It's the other Voltron show on the network.
Right.
Yes.
So I'll be with Valerie in Paris, then New York, then Cuba, then back to Hawaii, then back to Cuba again, and back to Cuba again, and.
Why do you even own a home, Doug K? Why don't you just like get rid of the home, rent some place, and bounce around the world?
I should move to Miami, where it's cheaper to get to Cuba, shouldn't I?
There you go. There you go.
No, I'm thinking.
You've already got the skin tone coloration for Miami right now. I mean,
well, some people
are pretty healthy there, man.
You're going to Vietnam. I've had a number of people ask me to do workshops in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And I know you're going. Or if you're going, I forget. I lose track.
Yep, I am. In November, I'm going for my birthday. Actually,
right.
So I'm gonna party in Hanoi for Frederick's birthday in November. So
that's so awesome.
The other city, I've never been to Hong Kong. I want to go there. I want to do some street photography in Hong Kong.
Yeah, me too. I want to get to Hong Kong. I want to get to Shanghai. I want to get to Madagascar. I haven't been to Australia yet. I've been to New Zealand, but not Australia. I want to get to Iceland. The planet is so big. There's so many places to go.
I know.
But then it's small at the same time.
I want to go to Thailand really bad right now. It's on my list.
Oh yeah, that's on my list too. Thailand.
Yeah.
Thailand. Yeah. All right, you guys are depressing me again. I need to.
Sorry.
I'm getting wanderlust when this happens. They're going to disappear. I'm going to start, traveling again. But I am going to Mexico. I'm scheduled to go to Mexico. When is it? Oh, Saturday. So this coming. This coming Saturday, I'll be in Copper Canyon, Mexico, with Ralph Velasco and a bunch of cool people hanging out, taking pictures.
Hey, I'll be in Walnut Creek.
Yeah, I heard. I heard that's really exciting in Walnut Creek. All right, guys, let's dive into the stories. First story. So we talked about Snapchat on the last show in the context of all these different technologies that are coming on. I think it was in the context of Pokemon Go and these things that I've resisted, and then I finally get sucked in. Snapchat was one of those. I resisted Snapchat. I was like, I think I resisted Snapchat because of the premise was it was like, I think teenagers and kids and preteens or whatever were sending like naughty pictures to each other, and the premise of Snapchat was the content that you send disappears after a certain amount of time, 24 hours, and so it's got that fleeting aspect to it, which people found appealing, and I never thought, I'm like, why would I want to do that? So I finally jumped on the bandwagon, set up a Snapchat account, and it's kind of fun. It's cool. So I'm having the same kind of preconceptions and visceral negative reactions towards Pokemon Go. But as soon as I get into the Snapchat thing, I finally get in Instagram, which I think is, kind of like your adult version of Snapchat. Instagram is now adding in Snapchat type features. So in the form of this feature that Snapchat has called Stories, I think it's called Stories, where you can essentially, as you add in content, whether it be photos, videos, etc., they kind of go into your story. It goes into this is what Sarah did today. This is what Sarah did this morning. This is Sarah did last night for dinner. This is Sarah sleeping, taking a nap. So people can kind of follow you and get an idea of who you are. Well, Instagram is following suit almost bit for bit with what Snapchat did. They didn't say, well, let's do the Microsoft thing and embrace and extend the Snapchat idea. They basically did a save as, change the name, and copy the code into their code base for Instagram users. So I wanted to bring it up on this show and discuss, first of all, this is, we have two slices of the population here. We got the hip young female here with Sarah France, and we've got the hip older male here with Doug K.
I was like,
How's it gonna position this? Right?
That's the nicest thing you've ever said about me.
Yeah, hey man. When I in 10 years when I'm your age, I hope I'm as cool as you are. I gotta tell you.
Right.
So Sarah, what do you think? Are you a Snapchat user?
So I'm just like you. I literally just set up a Snapchat like
Right.
3 weeks ago.
That's
I'm like
3 weeks
brand
ago.
new.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. Fine. Chase Jarvis, who's a friend of mine, and I'm always kind of still following all of his stuff because I just love him.
He's a rock
He
star.
was on Snapchat, and I'm like, well, Chase can do it. I mean, he's around my age, and in the same. I'm like, I should be on Snapchat, I guess. So I got on it, and you're right. It's like really fun. He Snapchatted me once I joined, and he was like, oh, I'm so glad you're on, and it was really lightweight, and that's what I loved about it. And so you could post stuff and not worry that like people are going to come back and see it 10 years down the road if you don't have like makeup on, it's not perfect, everything's just not perfect. It doesn't like stick. So it makes it a little more approachable. So I did like that. Of course, when Instagram came out with that this week, stories, which by the way, Instagram and Snapchat, I just confirmed, they're called stories. Both of them
Yeah, why even be covert about your plagiarism?
I mean,
right?
why? Yeah, why even reinvent the wheel? One of the biggest differences is that Snapchat has some of those like really fun filters and cool things. I think that's pretty much it, though. Like, I love that they integrated into Instagram because I have so many friends on Instagram already, and my community's already there, so it's easy for me to do that as opposed to like a whole nother platform trying to reinvent the wheel. And we have a France photographers on there as well, so I hate to say it, but I'm pretty much done with Snapchat now that like Instagram came out with that feature.
I was gonna ask that, so we're gonna continue that. Put a pin in that.
Okay.
Silicon Valley parlance. Let's put a pin in that and come back to it. Doug K. Doug, are you a Snapchatter?
I was on Snapchat before either one of you.
You were back when it was just Snap. When it was just Snap, I was on Snapchat.
But it's not really fair because I only did it because my niece is on there and I wanted to see what it was all about. Other than having registered early on, I have not been a regular user at all. In fact, I haven't been on there for the longest time until I decided to check out this story.
Yeah. It is interesting. And Sarah, that's the crux of the question I wanted to get to. So, and for both of you, I mean, Doug, you have a Snapchat account, but it was relatively inactive. Sarah, you just discovered it much like me, and now that Instagram swung in there, I would bet that this was Instagram's plan, right? They're like, you know what? There's the Snapchat audience obviously is going to skew younger, right? The Instagram audience is younger but still skews older. Let's just put it out and do what they did and give people that give our older people the feature that the young kids have been enjoying without any kind of apology, right? Do you think?
Yeah,
you think that was
or new platform to figure out. Like everybody loves a new feature, but no one loves like a whole new software usually.
Yeah. Right,
like if they can get it in the same place they've already worked so hard on. Yeah, I think it's going to be really hard for Snapchat to compete at this point because I can't really figure out what I would prefer to have on Snapchat other than some of the fun like
I mean, those faces, the faces and the facial recognition things. I mean, those are.
I mean, the dogs are funny.
Yeah, they're guilty pleasure. I gotta tell you.
But at the same time, I'm kind of sick of them. And I've only been on for 3 weeks. But like as I'm going through people's Snapchats, I'm like, yeah, I get it. You're a dog. Like, oh, you have the halo thing on. Oh, that's so cute. So I kind of feel like I like it better on Instagram. It's a little truer to what people are actually doing. It's a little, I think that Snapchat will still be a fun feature. They should probably change their whole offering to just all these little cool widget things that you can enjoy with your friends and kids. And I think that's probably what its feature set is now.
Exactly the same. I love it. We're always in sync like that. Doug, what about you, man? I mean, are you if you decide to use the story feature, would you do it on Snapchat or would you do it on Instagram now?
No, I would definitely do it on Instagram because that's where my peeps are. Yeah. Everybody. I mean, I'm still on Facebook because I'm so old, and Instagram is close enough to Facebook, right?
Doug,
But
I thought you were really big on MySpace. You're or Friendster. I think it was Friendster.
Oh,
yeah, and
wow. Way to
hey,
go.
I still have a CompuServe account. Come on. But you know,
Prodigy, baby, Prodigy all
but
day long.
I never had a Prodigy. I can say that. I did have an AOL account.
Yeah.
I got this big stack of old CDs and floppy disks.
Ugh.
But I want to bring up something legitimate here.
Oh, thank you.
Why
You want to
start?
change the DNA of the show
Why,
now? Is what you're
why
saying?
start now? Yeah. If you look at why they're doing this, if you look at the old Instagram and the new Instagram, for those who haven't done this, the difference is that as of today, there's this row of icons across the top, avatars of people.
Yeah.
And my understanding of how this is working is that only people who have posted something in the past 24 hours will appear there at the top of your feed.
Right.
And I can tell you, I immediately said, why aren't I up there?
Yeah.
Well, I haven't posted in the last 24 hours, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so I think this is a very effective way to rapidly build the volume of posts that people do on Instagram, because I think as soon as you figure out how that top bar of avatar works, you're going to want to be there for all your friends.
I know. I want to be
Yeah.
there.
I think it's very smart. I see nothing wrong with copying the concept or copying the name. That's how all the social media stuff works. That's what they gotta
Yeah.
do. I mean, better than not doing it at all. I think it was a very smart move.
That's how
Yeah.
everything works. I mean, we complain and cry foul when we see people copying, but everything has been copied. Everything. I mean, even the operating system, even the mouse was was Xerox, and then Microsoft, or then Apple, then Microsoft stole it, and Android stole the whole look of the iPhone, and they went on to become the biggest. So just because you started a thing doesn't necessarily mean it's your thing, unless you somehow are able to patent it and lock it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all
It's
it's
not
an
who does
execution.
it. It's not who does it first, it's who does it best.
There you go. Maybe that should be the title of the show. I like that. Well, then, okay, let's segue this, because the other question I have is related to social media, Snapchat, and even this new Instagram feature. And fundamentally, this is the problem that I personally have with social media overall is visibility into my everyday goings on, so much so that I feel like I want to build a story about it. Like I have some people that I'm following on on Snapchat, and they're like in the car dancing around, and then they're like, hey, now I'm walking into Target. Hey, now I'm looking at this card, and now I'm walking back out to my car, and now I'm in the car driving, and I'm listening to music. I'm like, I just don't have the desire, and I honestly don't think the world or anybody that follows me cares about the little minutia points in my life. I don't know. Sarah, are you in the same boat? I mean, I would think your life is more interesting than mine. I don't know.
Thank you. That's very sweet. Only because I have a 1-year-old. That's about the only thing that makes my life more interesting, because she's so darn cute. But she has her own Instagram account. So if I want to
monitor those followers.
pictures of her, yeah. If I want to post pictures of her, I post them on her Instagram to kind of keep things. I do them on mine every once in a while, so people don't think I'm like hiding that I have a child or something strange. But I'm with you. Like, I have a really hard time. I don't post as much as maybe like people would expect me to, because either I'm really in the midst of what I'm doing and I'm not thinking, oh, I should, pull out my phone and do a story about this. That's what's really hard. I've been having a really hard time understanding how photographers are doing it on wedding days. Like, I am so engrossed in what I'm doing that the only time we ever post is literally, like, so far, either somebody else has to do it, like someone, our assistant for the day, or it's in transition. Always like, we're in a golf cart on our way from here to here, or we're going from here to here. But like during any other time, I'm always wondering. I feel like anyone would be looking at me and thinking, why is she like have her phone out right now? And
Exactly.
I feel the same way. I'm so like, okay, the next thing, this is what's happening, thinking about what I'm doing, that I'm not ever thinking to like pull out my phone. So I'm semi-impressed with how photographers are able to manage both, but at the same time a little like that doesn't make sense to me. But I feel like as we have consistent assistance, that might be kind of a way to go, or wait, because I know that's really interesting to people and they want to see that. So we did a lot more at this wedding because we had 3 shooters. So we had Amber and from Alaska, and Jessica was with me second shooting. So we had the bandwidth to kind of do it.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering on a day-to-day like that. But I'm definitely not I'm going into Target kind of girl either. Like I feel like the posts that I post need to be about something, and or be something I'm really excited about and just saw and want to share.
Yeah.
So.
Doug, what about you? Do you live your life for the timeline, or is the timeline a reflection of your life?
That's a really good question. The timeline is definitely a reflection. I am not generally creating stuff for the timeline. I try and post 1 new image a day, and I post it. The same image goes exactly the same place it goes to Facebook, Instagram. Where else does it go? 500px and Flickr. Those are the 4 sites I use. I don't post to Snapchat regularly. But, look back to where this started. What was the first short form social network, social media thing? It was really Twitter. And if you look at the origins of Twitter, remember when it first came out, they put up the line, sort of, what are you doing right now? Something like that was their line. And they encouraged people to basically tweet. Of course, the word tweet didn't exist, but they would say, I'm having dinner. Here's a picture. They couldn't do pictures in those days, but here's a picture of my hors d'oeuvres. I don't do any of that normally, but I must admit that if I am traveling for fun, if I'm on vacation or somewhere, I will communicate with my family and close friends that way. I'll take pictures of food. I'll do selfies. I'm not above that. But I don't generally post them to the public. It's usually going to a closed group. But if I don't, when I'm working, when I'm doing photographic work, I don't post stuff of work. I don't do much commercial shooting at all. But when I teach, I'm not posting stuff from teaching in Cuba. I'm generally offline. I have an out for that. So
you're enjoying Cuba when you're in Cuba.
I don't live to tweet.
Yeah, I wonder, because both Snapchat and Instagram have features where you don't necessarily have to post instantly. So you can take an image, obviously on the case of Instagram, obviously, but on Snapchat, I think it's a relatively new thing where you can take a video or an image that you've already created and add that as a app. In other words, it doesn't have to be what are you doing right now. It could be, you could, Sarah, like for example, in the case of weddings, you could create a series of clips about a wedding that you did yesterday and post them as, a series of snaps if you wanted to, or as a story on Instagram and go that way. Is that disingenuous to do it that way? Is that kind of going against the grain of the way the services were designed?
I don't necessarily. I don't know. I think it is a little bit when it comes to stories.
It's like cheating, right? It feels like it's cheating.
Yeah,
it's not really a story at that point.
It's like, this is what I'm doing 5 hours ago. But I feel like that with Instagram. I used to feel like it needed to be what I did right then, and if I missed it, I missed it. I was like, okay, well, I didn't post it yesterday. I'm not going to post it today. It's not what I'm doing right now. But with stories, I feel a little bit more like, okay, now I could actually post what I'm doing right now, and I won't feel so bad if I post something from yesterday on my regular feed, which is nice. But I think in stories, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure. Hold on, I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure you can't actually do something
later,
from your
edited?
You can't.
You can't.
It goes straight into camera. So it only lets you do stuff that's live right now, which is really great. Again, I think that was one of the features that is going to be a little bit better than Snapchat.
Well,
Am I smiling?
I'm doing an Instagram story right now of us recording.
I already beat you. Oh my goodness! I'm finally ahead of the game on something.
We think alike. I hate that. It's so weird. I don't know. Doug, any parting shots on this on Instagram, Snapchat, InstaChat, Snapgram?
Well, just an interesting thing. One of the things that kept me from uploading to Instagram was that I didn't want to have to move stuff to my phone and upload from there. So I eventually found an app. I think I told you about it, Frederick, an app that you could install on OS 10 under on my Apple on my Mac, and I can upload from there. And I was about to give out the URL, but it's gone. And I think that Instagram is shutting these things down because
Yeah.
they don't want people to use their APIs to upload this way. But I have an app that I use every day to upload to Instagram. If you look around, you can find one.
Yeah, that's and then that's the ultimate in cheating. That's like when with Instagram, remember the controversy a couple of years ago about people shooting DSLR or mirrorless or whatever photos,
Right.
editing them, putting them on their phone, and then uploading them to Instagram. It's like, hey, that's cheating, and it's like it's supposed to be the iPhone camera, and now it's completely acceptable. It's like whatever you want to put up there, who cares?
Right. Yeah. So anyway, Instagram's here to stay. I like the new feature. I think it's a very intelligent move in sort of in terms of building traffic for them. It'll work very well.
Love it, love it. Cool. All right, 2 thumbs up for the Instagram intellectual property embracing from Snapchat. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about a photographer that's suing Getty Images for, wait for it, $1 billion. All right, we are back. Photographer is suing Getty Images for $1 billion after being billed for her own photo. So, photographer, all right, I got to read this first paragraph to you guys because it sets the stage for this. Because on the surface, it sounds like this is a frivolous lawsuit. How could you possibly sue for $1 billion for a single image? I don't care how good the image was. But let me read this to you. It says, Carol Highsmith, a distinguished photographer who has traveled all over America, aiming to chronicle for posterity the life of the nation in the early 21st century. She's donating her work to the public via the Library of Congress, which has called her act one of the greatest acts of generosity in the history of the library, which is a big deal. Carol M. Highsmith, the Carol M. Highsmith Archive, which is expected to ultimately encompass more than 100,000 images, is accessible royalty-free via the library's website. So 100,000 images chronicling the early 21st century, the life of this nation. She donated at no charge to the Library of Congress so anyone can use it. So the controversy comes in when last December, she received a threatening letter from a firm associated with Getty Images accusing her of license infringement because she posted one of her own images online. And the firm said they were demanding, it was a letter demanding a settlement payment of $120 from her nonprofit, This Is America, the This Is America Foundation. And they made an implicit threat to take her to court over this $120 from one of her photos, of which she had given 100,000 photos to the Library of Congress. So it goes on. So she reacted, obviously, and we'll link to all this. But so apparently, in the lawsuit that they filed, Highsuit filed a lawsuit accusing Getty Images of illicitly claiming the rights to not just one, but 18,755 images of hers. 18,755 images. So now you can see how this $1 billion gets more interesting, especially if she gets awarded, let's say, $1,500 for each of those 1,800, those 18,000 images. The money can kind of get big. So anyway, no one has responded with a public comment, but Getty is saying, I guess Getty responded saying they're defending themselves vigorously, and this was weird. I highlighted this in the notes for you guys. So they're saying we're going to defend ourselves vigorously, and we acknowledge that the images are in the public domain, but they still they maintain that they have the right to charge a fee for distributing the material. Quote, distributing and providing access to the public domain content is different to asserting copyright ownership of it, Getty says. So this sounds like some weird carpetbagger lawyer type, okay, we messed up, let's try to fix it somehow. Doug, if let's just put you in the driver's seat here. If you found out Getty Images was infringing on 18,755 of your hard-earned images that you created and crafted, and let's say that's a portion of the ones that you'd already donated to the world, and they send you a letter saying, "Hey, Doug, you're using one of your images illegally. Pay us, or we're taking you to court." What would you do? What's your reaction?
Well, first of all, I would be really happy. And then,
Cha-ching.
yeah. And the second thing I would do is I would pause and I would say, oh, oh, please, did they license them to somebody using them for publicity?
Yeah.
Because if I could find someone that they had licensed them to, I would be really, really excited.
Yeah.
You know, I made some notes on this just while you were talking.
Good. I figured you would.
There are so many problems with this. There are some things we don't know yet. For example, how did Getty even get the images? Did they just get them from the Library of Congress? That's one. Second, the fact that she donated them does not mean she gave up her copyright. She still owns the copyright. You can't, in fact, it's very difficult unless you sign away your copyright, which you never do. You own the copyright to the images forever. You may grant licenses, but of course she didn't grant any licenses. We also don't know, this thing that you highlighted talks about public domain. I went to the Library of Congress website. I don't see anything that suggests that she put them in the public domain, because I think she donated them to the library. The library can use them. People, you can get images from NASA, for example. Those NASA images are available. But they're not public domain images. I mean, they're still copyright from NASA. But so the question is, like I say, how did they get them? What are the license terms? And she still owns that license. There's no doubt about it. But it's just, the whole thing is it's hilarious, except that it's frightening, and it just shows what's happened to our stock photo industry. It's become a mess. It's become lawyers. Things are being turned over to these third parties who are just going around. They're basically copyright trolls. And anyway, enough for now.
I don't know.
Back to you, Frederick.
Sarah. No, back to you, Sarah. Sarah, what do you think? I'll put the same question to you. If this happened to you, well, first of all, is she in the right or the wrong? And if it happened to you, how would you respond?
Well, I think she's definitely in the right, and because also it sounds like this company had rights to the image that were exclusive if they were wanting to charge her $120 for using her own image. But if they didn't know it was her and they were still saying like, hey, we have rights to this image, you needed to pay us, that doesn't make any sense, obviously. But wow, I can't believe 18,755 images are being sold basically from this woman who had donated them somewhere. But it's definitely going to be an interesting lawsuit as it kind of plays out to see what the details and stuff really are. But there's a lot of details here that we know already that I'm already just really kind of flabbergasted over, and I hope that I can understand a little bit of Getty's side of saying like there is some cost associated with distributing images, but it doesn't sound like they had any rights to distribute those images in the first place, unless somebody from the Library of Congress somehow thinks that they were the ones that were distributing it, but that still doesn't give them the right to do it. So
it sounds like, I think, Doug, you hit it right on the head. It sounds like it's a confusing mess, and I looked this up while you guys were talking. So the Carlyle Group, LP, owns Getty Images, and so that's their bosses. In the Carlyle Group, the CEO is William E. Conway Jr., founded in 1987. The interesting thing is their market cap, the Carlyle Group's market cap, is $5.4 billion.
Yeah.
So $1 billion of $5 billion is a big chunk of change. It is a big chunk of change. And if this has happened multiple times, let's say that the courts award this photographer the $1 billion. If this company has done this before, all those people are gonna come out with torches with their buckets open for their payday as well, which means I would guess the end of the Carlyle Group in its current incarnation if this lawsuit goes through and there's evidence that's found that they've done this multiple times, or if even if they've done it one other time. I don't see how you could withstand another billion-dollar torpedo like this. I don't know.
Yeah.
This is scary. Well, this is definitely a story to follow, and yet another reason why you should register your images with the copyright office. Okay, I know you do that every single time you get back from Cuba, right?
I do it 5 times a year because they won't let you go more than 90 days.
Yeah.
So I do. But I want to say one other thing.
Yeah.
There's a subtlety in one thing they said, which
Sure.
is that it is legal to charge for the reproduction and distribution of public domain materials. For example, if you take the complete works of William Shakespeare, you can publish that in a book and charge for the book. But then, what you're charging for is the printing and the shipping and the distribution costs.
Not the creative work
Not the
itself.
creative work. That's right. You don't have a license. It happens to literally be public domain at that.
But then you wouldn't, let's say, using that example, you wouldn't have the right to say, go back to Bill Shakespeare and say, hey,
No.
hey, you owe us 120 bucks, Bill.
Yeah. Hey,
because I heard
find-
you reciting your poem in the town square, Bill.
That's right.
You owe us 120 bucks for that.
Yeah, we found some notes in your desk, and they happen to be exactly the same as King Lear, so we're holding you to this. No,
Getty has to be so upset with that company that wanted that $120 because she probably wouldn't even have known about it if that hadn't happened.
That's going to be the most expensive $120 they ever tried to retrieve from anyone.
Seriously.
Oops.
God.
Oops. And even if they don't, I mean, even if she, the courts say, yeah, $1 billion is frivolous, we're only going to give you, a quarter of that amount. Still.
Well, in the show notes it says $1B, and because I've got the wrong glasses on, I thought it was $18.
Oh no. No, put on the right glasses. That's 1 billion with the pinky.
Swing for $18.
Hey, yeah, I can see that lawyer now. Lawyer fees on a $1 billion.
Right? Let's do this.
Let's do this. I'm in. All right, let's skip to this next story. Oh God, I'm getting lost in my own show notes. The next story is interesting because I'm talking to a couple of people that are doing some interesting things in the world of printing. The story comes to us from Petapixel, and it's about a company called Lumii, Lumii, who's basically come up with a way to print 3D full-color holograms using a regular Epson inkjet printer. It's hard to describe this, so we'll link to this in the show notes. So have a look at their webpage. They have some videos and some animated GIFs that kind of describe what it looks like. But essentially, it looks like a lenticular or like a little hologram that you would see, but it's on a backlit piece of paper that has a light behind it, obviously, that when you change the angle, it gives you more dimension. I particularly wanted Sarah France's opinion on this from someone that's in the trenches working every day for clients, and when you see things, not everything has to be like, is there revenue associated with it, but you do have to scrutinize things and say, well, you have to look at it through the lens of, could this work for a client? Like when you saw this, would you think, you know what, I could actually, I could make this work as an item on my price list for my clients? Do you care?
No, I didn't. I definitely didn't think that. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's a really kind of fun, cool feature. I thought maybe like, oh, some nerd would really love this to show their friends. Like that's kind of how I feel like it's positioned right now. Like, hey, dude, look at this. I just printed this myself. So it's kind of like, I see it kind of like a fun toy to kind of play with when you're trying to figure out the technology and all of that. As a finished product, I didn't really see it as, something that we'd be looking at for weddings or anything. Not in its current state, at least. And I haven't really seen this kind of thing be something that clients are really interested in right now. I think because so much of what we talk about and sell when it comes to weddings is really about their heirloom and it being timeless and it being something that they can look at in 20 years and it would be the same as if they looked at it, 40 years ago, or a very, very kind of consistent. That's why we stay away from crazy editing that we feel like might be fads or things that might, be something that's very specific to a time period, because
Anything
we
that
want
timestamps it, and so one could say, "Oh,
exactly.
yeah, that was in 2016 when everybody was doing blah blah blah." Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we try to stay away from that in our wedding photography and in our wedding albums, and stay really true to the image, really true to the day, true to what they were experiencing, what they saw, and we find that our clients really, really value that, because from it they get a really beautiful heirloom that they can, their kids and their kids' kids can look at and hold and touch and look through and really feel like they were there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. From a wedding standpoint and an heirloom standpoint, yeah, I can see that you'd want to avoid things that are faddish or kitschy or whatever. But maybe from an advertising standpoint, this might have legs. Doug Kay, do you see this, like you walking through the subway in New York City, and the portrait is watching you as you walk down as you walk down the row, or keeping eye contact with you, or something like that? Does that make sense for this kind of tech?
Yeah, it does actually, and even spookier. I was imagining the bus drives by, and as the bus drives by, the face turns and follows you as it goes past.
Yeah.
No,
you looking at me? You looking at me?
Yeah, to increase the paranoia of all the. Never mind. So I think it's got real potential. I went and looked at the website. I looked at the samples. It's pretty cool, but it's funny. So I said, oh, yeah, well, it says sign up for the alpha test. Well, maybe I'll do that. And then I got stuck at step number 1, which is upload a 3D model. Now, if you're Alex Lindsay, that's one thing. You probably have a 3D model sitting
you got a
around.
library full of 3D models somewhere.
In Photoshop, you've got all that stuff. But I think most of us who work in the 2D world probably have never made a 3D model.
Mm-hmm.
We don't photograph our people in ways that are conducive to making 3D models of them. So this is not for your average recreational photographer. But I do think this or something like it is very powerful for advertising, because let's face it, if you can get your ad, your poster, your billboard to stand out on the street, that's what the game's all about.
It's all about capturing eyeballs and doing different things. Yeah, my first thought was kind of along the lines of you, Sarah, because I put myself into suspicion. I'm like, okay, would I print some of that? Would I print something like that and hang it in my house? And I gotta say, probably not, because now you're just showing off, right? And people are like, oh, that's great, and they completely miss the content of the photo that you toiled over, and composition and exposure and all that, just to see the effect of it being in 3D. But when you switch gears and look at it from the standpoint of advertising, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I could imagine if like the whole gist of this technology is you can print 3D color holograms using regular printing processes. I could see billboards. Imagine a billboard printed using this technique instead of being a video screen and using all that energy and all that. You could just have a static image up there that moves when cars drive by it and show different messages based on the angle of view. That could be pretty
interesting. For sure. And I think it's also would be really fun to have in your house at Halloween, like a 3D model of your face, just watching your friends walk down the the hallway.
Now
like,
oh my ridiculous. God,
super
ridiculous.
It's the Disney haunted house, haunted mansion.
For sure.
Yeah, it could be cool, but it's cool that all these different things are coming out for us to, like, different ways for visual storytellers to tell stories and do different things. Because once you get these, all it takes is like a couple of these things to kind of pop up, where you got like augmented VR, and then this tech, and then drones, and then mirrorless, all these different things, and then some kid that might not even be born yet, comes up and says, you know what if I took that and put it over here with this, and then the entire world is different? That's how it happens.
And it might pass the test of like a short-term fad at some point too.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times these things, some of them are short-term fads, and some of them actually turn out to be stuff that sticks and just ends up being new technology that we really love. So it definitely could, it has the potential at some point to turn into something like that, because there's still there's so much movement and we're so interested in it, but we don't have a way to display it without it being on TV or everyone sitting and watching it. So GIFs have become really cool. This is kind of like a printed version of a GIF almost, where you can make movement in it. So that definitely, I definitely see a future for it. I'm not sure that it, right now it's not ready to implement in our product line, but it's definitely something that I think down the road, as everything continues to develop, like you talked about with holograms, and I mean, I've seen the futuristic movies. I'm just saying it might be something cool in the future.
I know. Hey, I'm on a Netflix binge. I think it's Netflix or Hulu binge right now. I started with Star Trek episode 1 of the original Star Trek, and I'm working my way through it. I just wanted to watch it and kind of get a feel for what they thought was super high tech back then. And it turns out we have a lot of the stuff that they were using. We don't have phasers yet, but we have a lot of the things that they were talking about back then.
What, you don't have a phaser?
I don't have a phaser.
Oh,
I don't have a phaser.
Frederick.
We
have to get together for lunch. I'll show you my phaser.
Yeah, no, it's just those phaser control laws, man. They, you got to fill out all that paperwork. I don't know. So,
you have to wonder who writes these movies and comes up with these like ideas and concepts, because it is really true that a lot of these things are what we're like moving towards, and these movies were written like even like 10 years ago or 15 years ago, or some of the stuff's really old, and it's just amazing that it was telling the future.
Gene Roddenberry came up with Star Trek, what, in the 60s, Doug? Was it like 60? You're like 45 back then, right, or something?
Yeah, it was. I don't remember exactly. I did go back. I did a Netflix binge on Twilight Zone.
Nice. Okay, that's nice.
Wow.
I went back and I didn't finish them, but I did like the first 15 Twilight Zones, and they were awesome.
Yep. Yeah, you gotta love it. You gotta love it. But yeah, Sarah, you're right. These that's one of the reasons why I've always loved science fiction, because they give you I don't tend to like apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic dystopian future science fiction that much. Like, the world is over and there's just 3 humans trying to struggle to get the last grain of corn to survive. That doesn't really excite me. Although Mad Max was good, I got to give Mad Max props. But I tend to like the science fiction series that paint a kind of a it's better, it'll be better then than it is now type future for us, rather than it'll be worse than. I don't want these to be the good old days. I want those.
Everything's about doomsday, isn't it?
Yeah, I know.
It's crazy. And nothing seems like better in the future when they do movies, but I like that too. I agree.
Yep. Science fiction.
We should just send that to. This is what we're looking for in a new movie. We want to see what's going to be the future tech in 20 years, and we want it to be awesome.
Yeah. They should just make a movie. That would be the perfect way to launch a product. Silicon Valley, if you're listening, create a blockbuster movie that has one piece of tech in it that no one has ever seen before, and then at the end of the movie say, "Oh, that thing that the character was using? It's real, and you can buy it. And we're selling them out in the lobby right now." I'd be like,
seriously,
right? I would go
really
buy it. I would totally go buy it.
I have just 2 words for you, Frederick.
What's that?
TWiP movies.
Ooh.
The
Doug,
next venture.
I need a time machine because clearly, or I need to figure out this multiverse thing because clearly I don't have enough time in this dimension to get everything.
The next big thing, TWiP.
The next big thing, the TWiP multiverse.
TWiP dimensions.
Yeah, or TWiP dementia, whichever comes first.
Close enough.
Yeah, we'll probably be closer to the dementia thing. I don't know. All right, guys, we're going to take another quick break. When we come back, we're going to take on a question from one of our listeners. All right, we are back. Periodically on This Week in Photo, we answer a question that has come in from one of our listeners. This week we have a question from one of the TWiP Army members, Doug Creels. And Doug says, of the current pocketable, semi-pocketable mirrorless camera options, which has the best video features and video image quality? Now, it just so happens that the host of All About the Gear is on this show and can speak to that with authority. So, Doug, what do you think, man?
It just so happens that I have an answer for you.
Good.
There are a couple of choices. The key word was pocketable. If you want a pocketable camera,
Yeah.
At the high end, you've got this guy. I happen to have one right here. It's a Sony RX100 Mark IV, and this fits very nicely in a pocket and shoots 4K video. However, it costs $950 in the U.S.
Money.
If you don't want to spend that much money, Panasonic Lumix has a couple of real nice cameras. One is the ZS100.
Ooh, I have that one.
Only
Where is it?
$700, or as Gordon would say, the ZS100. You have one there?
There it is, right there. Look at that.
Great camera, isn't it?
Yeah, I love this little thing. It shoots 4K too.
Yeah, 4K video, $700. Or you can go down to the ZS600, which is only $450. You don't have quite the quality. It does 4K, has a 30x super zoom, but the image quality is not going to be as good as the one you've got there. So
Yeah. It's amazing
there
what
are
you
a number of choices. There's some good pocketable 4K cameras now.
This is completely pocketable. It does a fantastic job. It has a built-in lens. It has a pop-up flash on there. I mean, it's the only thing that this doesn't have that I've been just sort of complaining about for the last 4 years is a mic jack. You know, I mean, if you're gonna let me shoot 4K, come on, let me record decent audio with this. So, other than that, it is fantastic. I love it. It's a great.
Does
camera.
the Sony have a mic jack? Sorry,
That's a good question. I don't think so.
I'm gonna say no. They generally leave them off of these cameras with the excuse that, hey, no one wants audio. Who needs great audio? You just need beautiful 4K video. Who cares?
But you can always do that double system too.
Yeah, and that's what I do.
Yeah.
In my camera bag, I carry a Zoom H1 around so I can, if I really need to capture good audio, I can capture it. But I really just want, you know, the minimalist setup where I can just plug in a little lav mic and record some video and have the audio attached to the actual video.
Right.
So,
Doug, which one do you think does the best, like, stills of those?
of these two, Doug, what do you think?
I like the quality of the Sony. I have used the ZS100. I've never used the 600. The 60. So I can't compare them. But I think it's just a matter of slightly newer generation. This is a newer model.
Yeah.
This
And I would say for me, I'm a Lumix shooter, so I like the the image quality of this one's great. It's perfectly fine for 99.99% of what I'm going to do. But the biggest thing for me on there is because the other cameras I shoot with are Lumix. They share the same operating system and menuing structure and all that, and so it's just easy to get around in there. I can pick up any one of my cameras and instantly know where all the settings are. They're all configured exactly the same. So I don't have to worry about, where's that feature? And I know Sony has they have some issues when it comes to user interface design, right?
This has the same bad menus as all the other Sonys.
Yeah.
The other thing about the Lumix, the ZS100, which I really like, is they've really embraced video more so than anybody else. And so they've got these great features of shooting 4K video for the purpose of ending up with an 8 megapixel still.
Yeah.
And you can do that with any 4K video camera, but Panasonic has made it really easy with their new Lumix stuff, and that's really a fun thing to do, just to shoot video and then use it to extract these still images.
Yeah. Yeah. The other cool thing about this particular camera, this ZS100, is the zoom on this lens is 25 to 250.
Yeah.
Optical. So it's
10 to 1 zoom, very nice.
Yeah, it's crazy. I like it.
What aperture does it give you? How low does it go?
I'm gonna. Where is it? It's a 2.8 to 5.9. So at its fastest, it's gonna be 2.8.
Yeah.
2.8
The
to
little
5.9.
the little Sony, I call it my 24 to 70 in a pocket, because it's the same zoom range as a 24 to 70 on a full frame, At the wider zoom, it's f1.8. It's really fast, and even when it's all the way out to the 70 millimeter equivalent, it's f2.8. So it's a nice fast lens and very sharp. And this is one I travel with, and I just throw in my pocket. If I want to go out to dinner, and if I don't want to take a camera, but I want to have a camera, this is what goes with me.
That one, so that's where that one wins, Sarah. So you were talking about image quality. Image quality is probably negatable, but low light performance, that one's gonna win, I think, because would you say, Doug, 2.8, 2.8 at
f1.8.
So f1.8 at its fastest and 2.8 at the
worst,
fully extended zoom.
Right.
This one at its fully extended zoom is only going to give you f9 5.9.
Yeah.
So it's slow.
And we're talking about in either case, we're talking about real little pixels here, so noise is a problem.
Does the Sony have a pop-up flash?
It does. It has not only a pop-up flash. Check this out. It has a pop-up flash like that. Oh, that's the viewfinder. Sorry, pop-up flash over here. I gave away the punchline. There's my pop-up flash, but also has a pop-up EVF, which for people like me who use bifocals, being able to pop up a flash viewfinder is really cool.
It is a pretty.
So I can use it rear LCD, or I can use viewfinder.
And how does the touchscreen on that perform, Doug?
Oh, stop.
So is that another difference? Luminex has a touchscreen.
The Lumix has a touchscreen.
Of course it does.
Yeah, of course,
okay.
Yes. Touchscreen.
I literally, this is one of the number one questions I get as a wedding photographer, which is so funny because I have zero knowledge of point and shoots when it comes to like little pocket point and shoots. I don't really use them that much, and so people ask me that all the time at weddings. They'll come up and be like, "I need a new camera. Like, what camera should I get? What would be the best?" I'm like, "Oh my god,
just have a card printed up.
Like,
here you go.
Zero knowledge. I'm like, this is what Doug says. Use this one."
Yeah, there you go. There you go. I don't know, Sarah. Are you? What are you shooting weddings with these days?
Well, I shot with two different camera bodies this last wedding. I shot with my Canon 5D Mark IIIs and a Sony, the new Sony full frame, the A7R II.
Wow. What did you think comparatively of the two?
I really love the Sony. To be honest,
I knew it. Another convert, Doug. Somebody's going mirrorless.
Yay! Hey, there you go.
It's right there.
When I first got a hold of it, I just started kind of testing stuff with Charlie and walking around with it, and I stopped carrying my big camera around to like take pictures of my daughter, and it makes me sad because it's just such big gear. But I love the size of that camera and the weight of it and the features of it. I'm just like I'm really in love with the fact that I would be able to actually take my camera gear out with me in places as opposed to feeling like bogged down by it. It kind of changed my whole perspective. And at weddings, I found myself really gravitating towards it for a lot of reasons. But that's kind of why I made it my pick of the week this week. But we'll get to that in a minute.
All right, well, we're going to get to that now. All right, TWiP listeners, if you have a question you'd like us to tackle on the show, just click on the Contact Us link at the top of the page on thisweekinphoto.com and select TWiP, the main show, or whatever show you want to submit your question or feedback to, and it will go directly to that host or hosts. All right, let's do that pick of the week that Sarah was talking about. This is a segment where you guys can recommend anything to the TWiP Army as long as it is somehow related to photography. Sarah, you bury the lead, so unbury the lead.
So my pick of the week is, in case you missed it 30 seconds ago, the Sony A7R II camera. I am really kind of in love with this camera right now. Some of the things that I love about it, because I've been a Canon shooter for, I don't want to give away my age, but a really long time. And I really love, the size and the weight. And at first that kind of was kind of off-putting. I think I thought I needed the size and the weight of the camera to like look cool. But it's just a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter, and it feels so good in my hands. Carrying it around is so much lighter. I feel like after shooting so many weddings, I've felt so bogged down by my gear, and my back's killing me, and I wanted something a little bit lighter. So I do really love that. But mostly I love the features because I'm a geek when it comes to that stuff, and I just love the screen. I love having that instant view on the screen and being able to see what you're shooting through the lens, and also right there through the viewfinder and on the back of the camera. So if you guys haven't seen these cameras, the back actually pops off so that you can tilt it in different directions as well. And I found that really useful when I was shooting like dancing and things like that, when I was trying to really get in there and see somebody, but I needed to be higher or taller than I am. I mean, I'm only 5'6", and I'm always kind of a little bit jealous of the male shooters in their height. That they
Hey,
can be
there are
so much
tall
taller and
women
have all
too.
these
Come on.
ranges. Yeah, I mean, most of them aren't 6'5", but it's
Yeah.
definitely. I feel like now I have that advantage, and I didn't have that before. So that is really, really nice. If I'm tired of looking through the viewfinder, which I usually am by the end of the night, I can shoot off the back of the camera. There's just a lot of great advantages with that camera. And that 85 G Master lens is butter. Oh my gosh, I love it, because my 85 with the Canon has always been my favorite lens. And it's a 1.2, but it's a beast, and it is a little bit slow to focus, even with the newer model. And the 85, their 85 is just really fast, really crisp, just a little bit lighter in weight, and I just really enjoyed shooting with it. Also, I shot with their flash, and I wasn't so sure if I was gonna like love their flash, but I really love the technology that they used, even though they don't have like the radio technology that I think they should have. I'm sure it's coming, but the flash actually. I was trying to describe this to somebody earlier today. It did not go well. Let's see if I can do it better this time. When you change and go from horizontal to vertical, and you are pointing your flash like up, because we never typically aren't pointing flashes directly at people as wedding shooters. We're pointing them like up at the ceiling, doing some sort of bounce. But when you turn it, you then have to do like 3 moves to get to the flash in the right place. But with the Sony, you literally just go, and it's exactly as it was. So they've constructed it a little bit smarter, in my opinion, which is really cool too. So I'm really impressed, and I'm really enjoying it, and I think it's a great camera, and I'm really, really glad that Sony kept going and kept creating new stuff, because I know that was a little bit of a challenge for them, is just continuing to keep trying. But they're a big enough company that they could, keep putting out cameras until they got it right.
Let's hope so, because their P&L is not that healthy, but let's hope they keep going. But I agree. It's funny. It's interesting to hear you say that, Sarah, because I know since I've known you, you've been like rocking DSLRs and like creating amazing art with them. So it means a lot to hear you say, "Yeah, this is I'm thinking of moving in this other direction now," because you don't make, and especially
I don't make
not only that,
decisions
yeah, you
lightly.
don't make those decisions lightly, because you're like an Indy 500 driver where you don't really have a whole lot of time to pull over to play around with different things. You're in a race. You got to keep
Yeah.
going. So when
Well,
you try something, it means something.
and keep in mind, like my girls that work for me in the studio were holding their breath as I'm shooting this thing. They're just like, "Oh my God, please don't like it. Please don't like it. Please don't like it. We're all gonna have to change. Oh my God, please don't like it." So when they came back and they were like, "So, what do you think of Sony?" I'm like, "I'm really loving it." They're like, "Oh my God, we're all gonna have to change our gear."
Yeah.
So they're all a little still holding their breath to figure out how that's all going to work. But yeah, I'm excited. I love when I find something that actually makes me think about doing things differently.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, the only constant in the universe, as far as we know, is change, right? So
Yeah,
everything's going to
exactly.
change sooner or later, which is good. Well, cool. Well, thanks, Sarah,
Yeah,
for that. Keep us posted on your progress with that, and let us know
I will.
when you do the Doug K and dump all your other gear to buy all Sony stuff.
I'll definitely let you know when I do that.
Yeah, yeah. Doug, you did that. You sold everything, but you have Sony and Leica now, right?
I do. I sold a lot of Nikon gear. I
Yeah.
really did.
Oh
And I have
man.
so much more shelf space now, but part of it is that the gear is smaller. As Sarah says, the bodies are smaller. But I mean, here's an example of what I shoot with. This is the Sony A7R Mark II with a Leica. This is a 35 millimeter Summicron lens, and it's a tiny lens. I mean, it has the lens hood on. If I take the lens hood off, you can see.
Oh, look at
And
that little
the
stubby
big
guy.
the big gimmick for this though is this thing that's hanging down below the camera. That's an autofocus adapter. So I can take a manual focus Leica lens, put it on the Sony body, and autofocus.
Good
And
grief.
Wow.
it's really cool.
Uh-oh. Look at Sarah's face.
Yeah.
Sarah.
Sarah's gonna say, I can't believe I did a show with Doug.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Sorry.
I
anyway,
just want to. I'm gonna start listening to your gear show a lot more now.
fun.
That's for sure.
It's a very your staff will hate me. They'll absolutely hate me. But anyway, yeah, I love the camera. I hate the menu system. I can't believe someone coming from Canon could deal with this menu system. It's so bad. But the image quality is phenomenal. And you may laugh about how ridiculous it is to have 42 megapixels, but when you have 42 good megapixels, and as Sarah said, that 85 f1.4 G Master lens is gorgeous. It is a
Hmm.
spectacular.
Okay, we need to stop talking about that because, I don't want to be like Sarah's staff. Like, I don't want to switch. Anyway.
I didn't buy the 85. I got to borrow one. I didn't spend the
Yeah.
money for it, but it's a beautiful lens.
Ugh. All right, let's move on. Doug K.
Okay.
What is your pick of the week?
So I've got a lower end thing. I travel a lot to second and third world countries, and I don't think I've done this on TWiP before. But one of the things I like to do, especially if I'm leading a workshop, then I'm not so much there to take pictures for myself, but to help other people get good pictures. And part of that is to get to know the people, to introduce yourself, to make them comfortable, to make them willing to be photographed. And so one of the things that I do is I take this camera with me. This is what is it called? The Fuji Instax Mini 90. Have we talked about this, Fred?
No, but we talked about the
Okay.
Instax SP on the last show. They updated that too.
Yes. So this is the Instax camera. You can get the Fuji Instax printer, and if you have a Fuji camera, you can print directly from your camera to your printer. I don't own a Fuji camera at this point, so I buy the camera. And it's essentially like a Polaroid. It's got instant film. The film comes in packets of 10 shots.
Yeah.
Costs, about 60 cents per image. But what this is so great for when you travel is to take pictures of people that you meet, to give them a picture. Because you'll meet mothers who don't have any photographs of their children at all. They have none. And if you can give them a picture of their baby, Sarah can relate to this, I'm sure, but it's priceless. It's absolutely priceless. So I love taking this with me in a 5 or 6 day workshop. I'll burn through 50 images, 60 images or so, and just handing them out to people. And it is a great thing to have for breaking the ice.
Isn't that cool? I mean, you hit it right on the head because you could. And we talked about this because if someone made that printer their pick of the week last week, maybe it was me, but you can take pictures all day long and send them to people and snap them and Instagram them and all that stuff. But when you print one and actually create a tactile, tangible piece of art that you hand to someone, even and if you scribble on it too, it's just a weird kind of visceral. Like, I don't know, it's hard to explain when you give someone, like, especially a stranger, like, hey, I just made this photo and I thought you might like it. Here you go. It just opens doors, right, Doug?
Yeah, I'm often in a country where I don't speak the language of the local people, not at all. And so, first of all, I get them to agree to let me take a picture of them. They don't really know what I'm doing. I hand them the picture. They recognize it immediately as a Polaroid type of thing, and they immediately want to wave it around. I said, no, you don't have to do that, but wait 2 minutes. They usually look at the dark side, thinking it's going to come out of the black side. But
Yep.
once they have these pictures, they'll do anything you want. You've got them.
Yeah.
It's the greatest model payment that you can imagine. And the only thing I would warn people about is do not take pictures of kids when there are lots of kids around, because every one of them will not only want a picture of themselves, but they will want pictures of themselves with everybody else who's there. And that's
Yeah.
a lot of fun. Anyway, a lot of fun. Really fun.
Love it. Love it. Great. Two great picks. How much does that thing cost, Doug?
I knew you were going to ask that. This is, you probably have it in front of you. This is about, what is it,
$124.95.
there you go, $124.95, something like that.
And Sarah, your pick was 3,000 something and change.
I have expensive taste, Frederick. What can I say?
I know. San Diego and Austin people, you know.
$31.99.99.
San Diego.
Had to have the 99 cents on it, apparently.
She has San Diego taste, but it's very good taste.
Yeah, it is good taste.
It is
Sarah
good
does
taste.
have good taste. Good. All right. I'm going to skip my pick of the week because you guys had two excellent picks. And we'll go to the show close. Sarah France, where can people go to connect with you? We said francephotographers.com. What else?
Yes, and watch out soon. We're just putting the finishing touches on our new website, so that should be launching pretty soon. I won't put Jessica on the spot and name a date. Not yet. And, of course, you can always find us on Facebook. We have France Photographers, and we have our individual sites as well. Please find me on Instagram and check out my new stories. I think that's going to be a great place. And definitely, we are absolutely looking for some great team members to join us. Currently in Austin, we are considering a couple other cities. So if you are interested in being a part of an amazing team of women who are expanding, growing, and learning and teaching each other and developing an amazing business together, we would love to hear from you. So please reach out.
Love it. Love it. I hear 2017 is going to be the year of the woman for a lot of reasons. So I'm looking forward to 2017. Very good.
Great.
Sarah, thanks for coming on. It's always a pleasure having you on. All right. And
Thank
Doug,
you for having me.
You're welcome. Doug K., what about you, man? What's on your horizon?
Well, first of all, I'm just thrilled to be on a show with the great Sarah France. So
right?
That worked out great.
I was trying to keep it cool, trying to not sound nervous or anything.
Yeah,
but
no, it's very cool. You can go to dougk.com to find everything, but the most interesting thing is probably Cuba, as usual. I'm going in November for the workshop. That workshop is sold out. January, a few seats left. March, a couple left as well. So go to dougk.com/workshops and come join me in Cuba. That'll be a lot of fun.
Okay, Doug, before we close it out, I got to ask you, why Cuba? There's so many other places on this little, grain of sand we live on. Why only Cuba? Why not Madagascar or a place like that?
People are asking me. They've asked me to go to Vietnam and places like that.
Yeah.
I've never been to Vietnam. So if I go to Vietnam, I'm really nothing but the eye candy. and if I'm the eye candy,
you just said that, right? That was not your inner monologue.
No, that was it. But in Cuba, I've actually been there many times, and I know what I'm doing, and I know where to go, and I know the people. So I'm actually providing more value by taking people to Cuba. But that's probably going to change. I'm probably going to branch out. But go ahead, Sarah.
I have a question too. What is the workshop about? Like, what do the attendees learn when they're at the workshop?
It's really street photography. I mean, what we're doing, if you think about what you see from Cuba, the first thing we do, let people photograph the cars, get that out of their system, photograph the collapsing buildings, get that out of your system, because they're everywhere. I mean, everybody, they get off the bus in Cuba, off the airplane, and in the bus, they say, "Oh my God, look at the cars! Oh my God, look at the crumbling buildings!" And then you realize they're everywhere. So you get past that, and then you get to the people. And the amazing thing about Cuba, as most places, is the Cuban people, the spirit, the energy that they have. They're such marvelous people, and I want my students to get to know them and to become comfortable photographing them. That's the main thing. So we work on that.
When you first started going, one of your concerns was, because I think it was right around when the embargo was lifted, and one of your concerns was that it was going to quickly become Americanized and lose the romanticism and the flavor of Cuba. Have you seen that so far?
Well, Yeah, and I've been going for quite a bit longer than that. That was only a year and a half ago that embargo was lifted.
Okay.
But not certainly not Americanized. The problem is that there's so many people now wanting to go to Cuba that the infrastructure is taxed.
Mm-hmm.
In Havana, there are no hotel rooms. The high-end hotels, which are the good hotels, are charging like $650 a night. And if you look at the cost of our workshop and you just add up the nights, we couldn't even stay in the hotels. So, we're always having trouble finding places, but I've got people. I've got
Yeah.
people in Cuba who do this for me, friends there who make all the arrangements.
Much like I have in Vietnam.
There you
See,
go.
see, that's how it
So,
works.
so that's it. And you don't notice it too much in Havana because it's a big city, but when you get to the smaller towns, you really notice an influx of tourism. Not so much American, most of it's British and German, but there are a lot of people that didn't used to be there. So it's changing.
Nice. All right. Well, thanks, Doug, for coming on again. It was good to catch up with you.
Always fun.
Always fun. You both were fantastic. And we are at the end of another episode of This Week in Photo. Be sure to visit both of these guys at their various sites. We'll link to all of their social, Snap, Insta, whatever's in the blog post for this episode. Also, be sure to visit the new TWiP school at twipschool.com and, hang out at thisweekinphoto.com and subscribe to our other fantastic shows. And, of course, follow me on Snapchat and Instagram like Sarah. So don't follow Doug on Snapchat because he barely uses it. It's a Snapchat graveyard over there.
Instasnap.
Instagramps over there. All right, and if you're watching this show on YouTube, please leave us a comment, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And with that, it is time to take that lens cap off.